Tears of the Kingdom is finally here. As of me recording this, it will have been a week since the game came out. Just a little heads up, there may or may not be spoilers in this video. I will only be using the footage from the beginning of the game while I explain my thoughts. I won't go into the story or specifically call out anything I myself would really consider to be a spoiler, but just in case, proceed with caution. Now, before I give you my first impressions, I will preface this video with two things. Number 1. I was not the biggest fan of Breath of the Wild. It is actually my least favorite Zelda game because I feel like it lacked what I really played Zelda for. I had two conditions I wanted met before I purchased the game. Those conditions were unique dungeons and a story that Link actively contributes to. Number 2. This is just my opinion and first impressions. I've only been playing for a week, and honestly, I've been kind of sick, so I haven't played as much as I'd like. So with that out of the way, let's get into how I feel about the game so far. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but I actually like the opening and tutorial area more than Breath of the Wild. I think the reason for this is that there was a bit more narrative and linearity, although this linearity quickly goes away after some time in Hyrule. Which is okay, I guess, because they kind of hint at what you should do next constantly. But if you want to go against the suggestion, you absolutely can. The next thing I want to touch on are the abilities. If you've seen my previous video after the gameplay trailer, then you know exactly how I feel about some of the abilities. Most notably, Ultra Hand. I did not go into this game loving the idea of Ultra Hand, and my opinion didn't really change. It can be tedious, especially when rotating objects horizontally and vertically. I literally spent so much time mashing buttons trying to figure out how to orient the object properly. The controls for this game in general have a bit of a learning curve, as they still feel a bit awkward after a week of playing. I also thought you wouldn't have to use Ultra Hand as often as you do. Most shrines use Ultra Hand in some way. It's super common to see some logs, a sail, or hook, pretty much indicating you need to make a boat or some sort of traveling device. All of the materials are conveniently in front of you. Especially in shrines, the answer is pretty obvious. I don't know, that might be kind of nitpicky, but yeah, I'm still not the biggest fan of Ultra Hand. Moving on to Fuse. Most items you make with Fuse look extremely goofy, and I don't like that you can't completely separate or unfuse both items. You can keep the base item, but the one you fused it with will be lost forever. Also, why can't I fuse from the menu? You would think this would be a no-brainer, but if you want to fuse a weapon, you have to drop the item on the ground first and then use fuse on it. It's extremely annoying. But I mean, fusing can increase your weapon's durability and strength, so that's cool. I had a lot of fun using Ascend. It's probably my favorite ability. I love seeing where I can go vertically, and also the animation is really nice. I love it. I don't have much to say about Recall, so let's get into the different areas we visit in the game. Going by the trailers, it seemed like the Sky Islands, or Skylands, would be a big deal in the game, but once you leave the Great Sky Island, I never felt the urge to visit too many of them. They all kind of look the same and function as a little challenge with a reward. Again, I've only played for a week, so maybe this changes as you get further in the game. As for the underground areas, they're alright. I didn't expect them to be pitch black, which was interesting, but also makes perfect sense. There's also some new enemies in these caves, which addresses the lack of enemy diversity in Breath of the Wild. This is not limited to the caves, but I just happened to see a lot of new enemies in them. I will say the spooky elements are back to a certain degree. I genuinely felt caught off guard by certain enemies, cave monsters, floor masters, and even trees. No, seriously, when I saw the tree moving, I was shook. Another question I have is, why is everything so expensive? Is Hyrule in a recession too? It took me so long to find rupees. Like, I played for probably about 5 hours before I actually received any rupees. I also feel like gems used to sell for more, but maybe I'm going crazy and I just don't remember struggling like this in Breath of the Wild. Not to mention, a lot of chests also seem to give useless rewards. It seems as though it's almost always arrows, but I guess I'll never have to buy arrows, so that's a good thing. As for Hyrule, I still hate traveling long distances. The enemies are super hard, at least at the beginning of the game, and often one-shot kill me. Maybe that's just a skill issue though, I don't know. I will say that Hyrule feels more alive in a weird way. Like, I find myself loving the characters a lot more than I did in Breath of the Wild. For example, I love Purah, which, if you've been on Twitter recently, you've probably seen an uptick in thirsty fan art. But, anyways, Tulin! He's super cute and I want to adopt him. Me and Teba just might have to square up because that's my son now. I honestly get more of a Zelda feel from this game compared to Breath of the Wild, but I also feel like that doesn't mean much. Anyways, let's move on to a question I had before I played this game. Will you like Tears of the Kingdom if you disliked Breath of the Wild? To be honest, I'm not sure. It probably depends on what you disliked. There is some story. The dungeons are not like traditional dungeons either. They look different, which is a nice improvement, but they still function like divine beasts for the most part. You must unlock 5 terminals or locks that allow you to progress to the final boss. I will say that the bosses are unique and cool, which is like the greatest improvement in my opinion. Shrines and memories are also back. Shrines all look the same and function the same way as they did in Breath of the Wild. Solve a challenge and receive a blessing which you can trade for a heart container or stamina. For me, the real test is to see how much time I actually put into this game. How will I feel a year from now? My distaste for Breath of the Wild wasn't immediate. It was more retrospective when I looked back at it after a couple months. So I guess we'll see how I really feel about Tears of the Kingdom in about a month or two. I know I spent the last couple minutes giving a mixed review, but I'm actually enjoying the game despite any grievances I have with it so far. I also haven't played Breath of the Wild since like 2019, so my opinion might be a bit different if I had played it recently. So far, I do think it's better than Breath of the Wild, but it's not a contender for my favorite Zelda game. I would probably rate it a solid 7. We'll see how that changes going forward. I will definitely make an updated video once I complete the game. Let me know how you feel about the game in general and in relation to Breath of the Wild. Is it better? Is it worse? Did they address your concerns in this game? All opinions are welcome, and I like hearing opinions different to my own. I will also be playing Tears of the Kingdom with my friends on this channel, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.